Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, later revered as Mahatma Gandhi, was born on 2 October 1869 in Porbandar, a coastal town in present-day Gujarat, India. His father, Karamchand Gandhi, served as the Dewan, or Chief Minister, of Porbandar, while his mother, Putlabai, was deeply religious and devoted to Vaishnavism. Gandhi grew up in a modest household shaped by honesty, discipline, and spirituality. These formative influences would later guide his personal ethics, political strategies, and unshakable commitment to truth, nonviolence, and social justice throughout his extraordinary life. As a child, Gandhi was shy, reserved, and not particularly remarkable in academics. However, he showed an early inclination toward moral questions and ethical conduct. His mother's devout religious practices, including regular fasting and reciting prayers, made a lasting impression. Gandhi absorbed stories from Hindu epics such as the Ramayana and Mahabharata, along with moral tales from Jainism and Buddhism, fostering compassion for all living beings. This upbringing cultivated his belief in Ahimsa, or nonviolence, a principle that later became the foundation of his political and social activism. In 1883, at the age of 13, Gandhi entered into an arranged marriage with Kasturba Mukherjee, who was also around his age. The marriage was customary for the time, though Gandhi later criticized the practice of child marriage. The couple would eventually have 4 sons. Early in their relationship, Gandhi struggled with feelings of jealousy and control, but over time, he grew to respect Kasturba's resilience and independence. Her steadfast support and occasional challenges to his ideas shaped Gandhi's personal growth and understanding of partnership. In 1887, Gandhi graduated from high school in Ahmedabad. He then enrolled at Samaldas College in Bhavnagar but found the subjects uninteresting and struggled to adapt to the environment. Encouraged by family, friends and relatives, it was suggested that he study law in England to secure a respectable career. Though hesitant due to his religious vows, he eventually agreed, promising his mother to abstain from meat, alcohol, and women while abroad. This pledge deeply influenced his conduct during his stay in England. In September 1888, Gandhi sailed to London to study at University College London and later at the Inner Temple to become a barrister. Initially, he felt isolated and struggled with cultural differences. Determined to fit in while honoring his vow, Gandhi joined the Vegetarian Society, deepening his knowledge of diet and ethics. He also read extensively about world religions, including Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism, developing a broader spiritual perspective. This exposure reinforced his belief in religious tolerance and the universality of moral principles across faiths. Gandhi completed his legal studies in 1891 and returned to India, hoping to establish a law practice in Bombay. However, his early attempts at litigation failed due to his shyness and lack of courtroom experience. Just as he considered alternative career paths, an opportunity arose in 1893 to work for an Indian firm in Natal, South Africa. This decision would prove transformative, as his experiences there exposed him to racial discrimination and injustice, compelling him to embark on a lifelong struggle for civil rights. Upon arriving in South Africa, Gandhi encountered blatant racism. A pivotal incident occurred when he was forcibly removed from a first-class train compartment in Pietermaritzburg despite holding a valid ticket. This humiliation deeply affected him, awakening a determination to fight racial prejudice. Gandhi began organizing the Indian community, addressing issues such as unfair taxes and restrictions on Indian immigrants. These experiences marked the beginning of his evolution from a cautious lawyer into a committed activist, willing to challenge systemic injustice through peaceful means. During his 2 decades in South Africa, Gandhi developed and refined the concept of Satyagraha, meaning truth force or soul force. This philosophy emphasized nonviolent resistance as a powerful tool against oppression. Gandhi organized campaigns against discriminatory laws, including the infamous pass laws requiring Indians to carry identification at all times. Through strikes, protests, and legal challenges, he demonstrated that persistent, principled resistance could achieve meaningful change. His South African activism laid the groundwork for the methods he would later apply in India's independence struggle. In 1906, Gandhi took a public vow of brahmacharya, or celibacy, believing it would enhance his self-discipline and focus on service. This personal decision reflected his growing emphasis on simplicity, moral purity, and spiritual strength. He adopted a minimalist lifestyle, reducing his possessions and wearing simple clothes. These changes were not mere symbols but deliberate choices aligned with his philosophy of self-restraint. Gandhi believed personal transformation was essential for anyone seeking to change society, and he sought to embody the values he preached. By 1914, Gandhi's leadership in South Africa had significantly improved the rights of the Indian community, culminating in a negotiated settlement with the South African government. Recognized for his moral authority and strategic skills, Gandhi returned to India at the outbreak of World War I. Though welcomed as a hero, he initially refrained from plunging into nationalist politics. Instead, he traveled extensively to understand the conditions of rural India, laying the foundation for a movement rooted in the needs of the common people. In 1915, Gandhi formally joined the Indian National Congress at the invitation of Gopal Krishna Gokhale, a respected moderate leader. Gokhale advised him to observe Indian politics for a year before taking any decisive action. Gandhi used this time to deepen his understanding of India's diverse communities, economic struggles, and social injustices. He immersed himself in rural life, advocating for sanitation, education, and self-reliance. His grassroots engagement strengthened his credibility as a leader genuinely committed to the welfare of the poor. One of Gandhi's earliest movements in India was in Champaran, Bihar, in 1917. Local farmers were forced by British planters to grow indigo under exploitative conditions. Gandhi led an investigation into their grievances, mobilized peasants, and used non-violent protest to demand reforms. The success of the Champaran Satyagraha established his reputation as a leader capable of achieving tangible results without violence. It also demonstrated his ability to unite diverse communities around moral principles, turning local issues into broader movements for justice. Following Champaran, Gandhi intervened in Kheda, Gujarat, in 1918, where farmers were unable to pay taxes due to crop failure. Gandhi organized a tax boycott, encouraging villagers to remain peaceful despite government pressure. Eventually, the authorities agreed to suspend tax collection. This victory reinforced the power of collective nonviolent action. Gandhi's approach emphasized discipline and self-control, warning followers against anger or retaliation. His philosophy combined practical political strategy with deep moral conviction, attracting wide support across India's social, economic, and religious divides. The 1919 Rowlatt Act, which allowed the British government to imprison individuals without trial, marked a turning point in Gandhi's national role. Outraged, he called for a nationwide hartal, or strike, combining prayer, fasting, and peaceful protest. However, the movement spiraled into violence in some areas, leading Gandhi to suspend it immediately. His decision disappointed some followers but reflected his uncompromising commitment to nonviolence. This episode also taught him that mass movements required extensive preparation to prevent anger from undermining moral and political objectives. The same year, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar shocked the nation. British troops under General Dyer opened fire on an unarmed gathering, killing hundreds. Gandhi was deeply disturbed, viewing the massacre as proof of the moral bankruptcy of colonial rule. This event intensified his resolve to fight for Swaraj, or self-rule, through peaceful means. He urged Indians to boycott British goods, institutions, and honors, arguing that independence required not just political change but also moral regeneration among India's citizens. In 1920, Gandhi launched the non-cooperation movement, urging Indians to withdraw from British schools, courts, and administrative systems. He promoted khadi, hand-spun cloth, as a symbol of self-reliance and resistance to British economic exploitation. Millions joined the movement, making it one of the largest mass protests in history. Yet Gandhi remained vigilant about maintaining nonviolence. When violent clashes erupted in Chauri Chaura in 1922, resulting in police deaths, Gandhi abruptly called off the campaign, prioritizing moral integrity over political momentum. Gandhi's decision to halt the non-cooperation movement led to his arrest and imprisonment for sedition in 1922. He used his time in prison for reading, writing, and self-reflection, reinforcing his spiritual practices. His imprisonment only increased his moral authority, making him a symbol of sacrifice for the nation. By the time of his release in 1924, Gandhi was more determined than ever to unite India's diverse population, bridging divides between Hindus and Muslims, rich and poor, urban and rural communities. In the mid-1920s, Gandhi focused on social reforms alongside political struggle. He campaigned against untouchability, calling the oppressed castes, Harijans, or children of God. He also promoted communal harmony, weaving interfaith unity into the freedom struggle. Gandhi encouraged women's participation in public life, believing they had a special role in fostering peace. His message linked independence with moral upliftment, insisting that self-rule without social justice would be hollow. These years strengthened his belief that true freedom was inseparable from ethical transformation. By 1930, frustration with British refusal to grant meaningful autonomy pushed Gandhi to launch the Salt Satyagraha. British law prohibited Indians from making their own salt, forcing them to buy it under monopoly conditions. Gandhi's 240-mile march to Dandi, where he made salt from seawater, became a global symbol of peaceful defiance. Thousands joined the movement, facing arrests and beatings without retaliation. The Salt March demonstrated Gandhi's genius for turning simple acts into powerful challenges to authority, inspiring both Indians and international observers. The Salt Satyagraha led to Gandhi's arrest once again, but it also pressured the British into negotiations. In 1931, he attended the Second Round Table Conference in London to discuss constitutional reforms. While his moral presence impressed many, the talks failed to produce significant results. Gandhi returned to India disappointed but undeterred. He resumed civil disobedience campaigns, convinced that independence could only be achieved through persistent nonviolent pressure. His global stature continued to rise, making him one of the most recognized leaders in the world. By the early 1930s, Gandhi also turned his attention to rural economic development. He promoted village industries, spinning, and weaving to counter industrial dependence on Britain. Gandhi believed political freedom would be meaningless without economic self-sufficiency for India's villages, where most people lived. He urged people to adopt khadi and small-scale industries, linking them to moral discipline. His approach combined political resistance with constructive work, fostering dignity among rural communities while weakening the economic hold of colonial powers on Indian society. In 1932, Gandhi began a fast unto death to protest separate electorates for the depressed classes, as proposed by the British. He feared such separation would deepen social divisions. The fast sparked nationwide concern, leading to the Pune Pact between Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, ensuring reserved seats for these communities within a joint electorate. While the compromise was controversial, it demonstrated Gandhi's moral influence and his belief in unity across caste lines, even though his methods and visions sometimes clashed with other reformers. Throughout the 1930s, Gandhi maintained a delicate balance between confronting colonial authority and addressing social reform. He frequently retreated to his ashrams in Sabarmati and later Sevagram, where he lived simply, spinning khadi daily and promoting self-reliance. These ashrams became centers for training in nonviolence, truthfulness, and community service. Gandhi's emphasis on personal discipline, dietary control, manual labor, and prayer served as both a spiritual practice and a political statement, reinforcing his conviction that personal transformation was essential for societal liberation. When World War II broke out in 1939, the British unilaterally involved India in the conflict without consulting Indian leaders. Gandhi opposed fascism but also believed that supporting Britain without a clear commitment to Indian independence was morally wrong. Initially advocating individual satyagraha rather than mass protest, he encouraged selected volunteers to publicly oppose the war. His stance highlighted the tension between opposing tyranny abroad and confronting colonial oppression at home, setting the stage for a larger confrontation with British authority. By 1942, Britain's refusal to grant independence during wartime led Gandhi to launch the Quit India movement. On August 8, he gave the famous call to "do or die" in pursuit of freedom. The movement spread rapidly, with strikes, boycotts, and demonstrations across the country. The British responded with mass arrests, detaining Gandhi and other leaders. Gandhi spent 2 years in prison, during which his health deteriorated. The Quit India movement marked the final large-scale campaign before independence, intensifying British resolve to eventually negotiate. During his imprisonment in the Quit India period, Gandhi suffered personal tragedy with the death of his wife, Kasturba, in 1944. Her passing deeply affected him, yet he continued his political engagement even while grieving. Gandhi also endured severe illness, which alarmed both supporters and adversaries. The British, fearing unrest, eventually released him on health grounds. This period tested his resilience, blending personal loss with national struggle, and further humanized him in the eyes of millions who saw his suffering as shared sacrifice. After his release, Gandhi played a central role in negotiations with the British and Indian political leaders. He advocated Hindu-Muslim unity, striving to prevent the growing communal tensions from undermining India's future. Despite his efforts, divisions deepened, and the Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, pressed for a separate Muslim homeland. Gandhi opposed partition, fearing it would cause widespread violence and weaken India's moral foundation. His commitment to unity, however, faced formidable political realities that increasingly pointed toward an irreversible divide. The end of World War II in 1945 brought renewed momentum for Indian independence. The Labour government in Britain was more open to decolonization, and negotiations resumed. Gandhi, though not holding formal office in the Congress, remained its moral guide. He urged leaders to maintain nonviolence in all interactions, even as tensions between Hindus and Muslims escalated. His emphasis on peace often clashed with the political urgency felt by others, but his steadfastness reinforced his role as the conscience of the movement. In 1947, the British announced their intention to leave India. The Indian Independence Act partitioned the subcontinent into two nations, India and Pakistan. Gandhi was heartbroken by the decision, seeing it as a betrayal of unity and nonviolence. As communal riots erupted, killing hundreds of thousands and displacing millions, he refused to celebrate independence. Instead, Gandhi traveled to violence-stricken areas, risking his life to promote peace. His moral authority temporarily calmed tensions in places like Bengal and Delhi, though the wounds ran deep. Gandhi's final months were devoted to peacemaking between Hindus and Muslims. In January 1948, he began a fast to pressure leaders and citizens to commit to communal harmony. His fast succeeded in securing promises of peace in Delhi, but tensions remained. On January 30, 1948, while walking to a prayer meeting, Gandhi was assassinated by Nathuram Godse, a Hindu extremist who opposed his conciliatory stance toward Muslims. His death shocked the world, and millions mourned the loss of a leader who embodied truth and nonviolence. The assassination of Gandhi sent shockwaves across India and the world. His funeral procession in Delhi drew over 1 million mourners, representing all communities and social backgrounds. Leaders from various nations paid tribute, acknowledging his influence on global struggles for justice. Gandhi's death left India without its moral compass during a fragile transitional period. Yet his principles of satyagraha, nonviolence, and truth continued to inspire movements against oppression, serving as an enduring guide for future generations seeking peaceful societal transformation. Gandhi's philosophy was rooted in the belief that means and ends are inseparable. He argued that true freedom could never be achieved through violence, as violent means would corrupt the goal. This ethical framework distinguished him from many political leaders of his time. His insistence on truth, or satya, required constant self-examination and openness to change. Gandhi acknowledged his own mistakes publicly, believing humility strengthened leadership. By making morality a central pillar of politics, he challenged conventional ideas about power and governance. Central to Gandhi's vision was the concept of ahimsa, or non-harming. This extended beyond physical nonviolence to encompass kindness in speech, thought, and intention. Gandhi's ahimsa was both a personal vow and a political tool, influencing global leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Cesar Chavez. He believed that love and compassion had transformative power, even in political struggles. For Gandhi, nonviolence was not passive submission but active resistance, requiring immense courage, discipline, and the willingness to suffer without retaliation. Satyagraha, another cornerstone of Gandhi's philosophy, went beyond mere protest. It was the pursuit of truth through nonviolent action, combining moral integrity with strategic resistance. Gandhi saw Satyagraha as a force that could awaken the conscience of oppressors while uniting oppressed communities in dignity. This method relied on mass participation, self-discipline, and readiness to endure suffering for a just cause. Gandhi's campaigns demonstrated that sustained moral pressure could undermine even powerful empires, influencing civil rights movements across continents for decades after his death. Gandhi's lifestyle reflected his values. He lived simply, often in communal ashrams where residents followed principles of self-sufficiency, equality, and service. His clothing, hand-spun khadi, symbolized resistance to British industrial goods and solidarity with India's poor. Gandhi's diet was vegetarian, and he experimented with fasting as a spiritual and political practice. By aligning his personal habits with his ideals, he reinforced the authenticity of his message. His life served as a model for those who believed that societal change begins with individual transformation. Education was another key focus for Gandhi. He advocated Nai Talim, or basic education, integrating manual labor, moral development, and intellectual growth. Gandhi criticized colonial education for alienating Indians from their culture and promoting rote learning. Instead, he promoted practical skills alongside literacy, enabling self-reliance and community service. He saw education as a means to cultivate character and responsibility, not merely a path to employment. Although his educational model faced criticism, it reflected his holistic vision for empowering individuals and communities. Gandhi's approach to economics was grounded in the principle of trusteeship. He believed wealth should be held in trust for the benefit of society, with industrialists serving as caretakers rather than exploiters. This philosophy sought to balance economic development with social justice, avoiding both extreme capitalism and violent class conflict. Gandhi opposed unrestrained industrialization, warning it could erode human values and community life. His economic ideas inspired debates on sustainable development, equitable distribution, and ethical business practices long after his passing. Religious pluralism was fundamental to Gandhi's worldview. He drew spiritual strength from Hinduism but also studied Christianity, Islam, Jainism, and Buddhism, finding universal truths in each. Gandhi often cited the Bhagavad Gita, the Sermon on the Mount, and passages from the Quran in his speeches. He envisioned India as a secular nation where all faiths coexisted peacefully. However, his inclusivity sometimes attracted criticism from religious hardliners. For Gandhi, interfaith harmony was essential for national unity and for upholding the moral fabric of society. Women's empowerment was another significant aspect of Gandhi's work. He encouraged women to participate in public protests, economic self-reliance, and political decision-making. Gandhi believed women possessed innate qualities of compassion, patience, and nonviolence that could strengthen the freedom struggle. Figures like Sarojini Naidu, Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay, and Kasturba Gandhi herself became prominent leaders under his influence. Although Gandhi held some traditional views on gender roles, his mobilization of women challenged societal norms and expanded the scope of India's independence movement. Gandhi's influence extended far beyond India. His methods inspired global leaders and movements seeking justice without resorting to violence. Martin Luther King Jr. adapted Satyagraha for the American civil rights movement, while Nelson Mandela drew from Gandhi's resilience in fighting apartheid. In Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi cited Gandhi's philosophy as guiding her political activism. Across the world, human rights advocates embraced his emphasis on moral courage, community solidarity, and peaceful resistance, making Gandhi a universal symbol of ethical leadership. Gandhi's relationship with the press was complex yet impactful. He skillfully used newspapers to communicate his ideas, publish open letters, and mobilize supporters. Through journals like Young India and Harijan, Gandhi articulated his vision, criticized colonial policies, and discussed moral issues. His writings were clear, persuasive, and grounded in ethical reasoning, attracting both admiration and controversy. He saw journalism as a service to truth, insisting that the press had a duty to educate and inspire, rather than merely entertain or inflame passions. Despite his global reputation, Gandhi faced criticism from many quarters. Revolutionary nationalists argued his nonviolent approach was too slow, delaying independence. Some leaders in the Muslim League accused him of favoring Hindu interests, while certain Dalit activists felt his stance on caste reform did not go far enough. British officials often dismissed his ideas as impractical. Gandhi welcomed criticism, viewing it as an opportunity for reflection. However, he remained steadfast in his belief that only moral means could secure lasting, just outcomes. Gandhi's personal experiments in truth extended to his diet, health, and celibacy. He tested various vegetarian regimens, sometimes to extremes, believing that diet influenced moral clarity and self-control. His practice of brahmacharya, or celibacy, after 1906 aimed at conserving spiritual energy for public service. Gandhi's unconventional lifestyle sometimes puzzled his followers and attracted sensationalist coverage. Yet for him, these experiments were essential to align his inner life with his public mission, reinforcing the integrity of his leadership in the freedom struggle. During his travels across India, Gandhi observed the deep economic divide between rural and urban areas. He believed India's soul resided in its villages, which needed to be revitalized through self-reliance and local governance. Gandhi promoted the concept of Gram Swaraj, autonomous, self-sufficient villages as the foundation of a free India. This vision included participatory democracy, sustainable agriculture, and education rooted in local culture. While critics argued it was idealistic, Gandhi maintained it offered a humane alternative to centralized, industrialized governance. Gandhi's campaigns often relied on symbolism to connect with ordinary people. The spinning wheel became a powerful emblem of resistance, representing economic independence and dignity for the poor. Marches, fasts, and boycotts were designed to be accessible forms of protest that anyone could join. Gandhi's mastery of symbolic action transformed seemingly simple acts into moral statements that resonated worldwide. His ability to translate abstract ideals into concrete, participatory actions was central to his success in mobilizing millions across diverse backgrounds. Education in Gandhi's ashrams emphasized moral training alongside practical skills. Residents learned spinning, farming, sanitation, and basic literacy. Gandhi believed manual labor cultivated humility and fostered equality among participants, regardless of social background. The daily routine included prayer, communal meals, and collective decision-making. Discipline was strict but aimed at nurturing self-respect and responsibility. These ashrams served as microcosms of the society Gandhi envisioned, cooperative, self-reliant, and morally conscious. They also trained many who later became influential leaders in independent India. Gandhi's philosophy also addressed the role of science and technology. While he acknowledged their benefits, he cautioned against unrestrained industrialization, fearing it could lead to environmental degradation and moral decline. Gandhi advocated appropriate technology, tools and methods that empowered communities without displacing traditional livelihoods. His views foreshadowed later debates on sustainable development and ecological ethics. He believed that technology should serve humanity's moral and spiritual needs, not dominate them, a perspective that continues to influence environmental and development discourses. The Gandhi-Irwin Pact of 1931 was a significant political milestone. It marked a truce between the British government and the Indian National Congress following the Salt Satyagraha. The pact secured the release of political prisoners and allowed Indians to make salt for personal use. In return, Gandhi agreed to suspend civil disobedience and attend the Round Table Conference in London. While some criticized the concessions, the pact demonstrated Gandhi's willingness to negotiate and his belief in dialogue as a means to progress. Gandhi's attendance at the Second Round Table Conference in London was both a political and personal journey. He represented the Indian National Congress as its sole delegate, engaging with British politicians, industrialists, and public figures. Despite his moral authority, Gandhi faced skepticism and opposition, particularly from those favoring communal electorates or gradual reform. The conference failed to achieve substantive political agreement, but Gandhi's presence brought international attention to India's cause, highlighting the moral and ethical dimensions of the independence struggle. On returning from London, Gandhi resumed civil disobedience after negotiations with the British broke down. He was arrested multiple times between 1932 and 1934, spending long periods in prison. These incarcerations became opportunities for writing, prayer, and strategic planning. Gandhi viewed imprisonment not as a setback but as a form of protest, demonstrating the injustice of colonial rule. His calm acceptance of imprisonment inspired many followers, showing that personal sacrifice was both a moral duty and a powerful political statement. In 1934, Gandhi resigned from the Indian National Congress, believing it had become overly focused on political power rather than social reform. He redirected his energies toward constructive programs, particularly improving rural sanitation, promoting khadi, and fighting untouchability. Although no longer in formal leadership, Gandhi remained the movement's moral center, influencing Congress policies from outside. His withdrawal underscored his belief that independence required transforming India's social fabric, not merely replacing colonial rulers with a new political elite. Gandhi's opposition to untouchability was unwavering. He toured India extensively to promote social equality, often staying in Dalit homes and inviting Dalits into temples that had traditionally excluded them. He renamed them Harijans, or Children of God, to challenge societal prejudice. This campaign faced resistance from Orthodox Hindus but inspired many reformers. Gandhi believed caste discrimination was morally indefensible and incompatible with true freedom. His efforts laid the groundwork for later constitutional protections against caste-based discrimination in independent India. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 once again put Gandhi at the center of political debate. He condemned fascism but opposed unconditional Indian support for Britain without a promise of independence. His position led to tension with both the British government and some Indian leaders who favored full cooperation in the war. Gandhi's nuanced stance reflected his commitment to moral principles over political expediency, even in times of global crisis. This set the stage for the Quit India movement in 1942. The Quit India movement was Gandhi's final mass civil disobedience campaign. Launched in August 1942, it called for immediate British withdrawal from India. Gandhi's speech urging Indians to do or die galvanized millions. The British responded with swift repression, arresting Gandhi and most Congress leaders within hours. Despite leaderless conditions, protests erupted nationwide, often facing brutal crackdowns. The movement demonstrated India's resolve for independence and further weakened British authority, though it also highlighted the challenges of maintaining nonviolence under severe repression. Gandhi's imprisonment during the Quit India movement was marked by personal hardship. His wife, Kasturba, died in detention in February 1944, and Gandhi himself suffered from illness. The British released him on medical grounds, fearing his death in custody would spark widespread unrest. These years were emotionally and physically taxing, but Gandhi continued advocating for peace and unity, particularly between Hindus and Muslims. He understood that independence was inevitable, yet he feared deep divisions could undermine the moral foundation of the new nation. After World War II, Britain prepared to grant independence to India. Gandhi played a mediating role in discussions between the Congress and the Muslim League, striving to preserve national unity. However, growing communal tensions and the League's demand for Pakistan led to the acceptance of partition. Gandhi opposed this division, believing it violated the principles of unity and nonviolence. Despite his opposition, he chose to focus on minimizing violence and aiding refugees, demonstrating his commitment to human dignity even amid political disappointment. Independence on August 15, 1947, brought both joy and sorrow. While India was free from British rule, partition triggered one of the largest mass migrations in history, accompanied by horrific communal violence. Gandhi refused to join official celebrations, instead traveling to riot-affected areas to promote peace. His presence often calmed tensions, and his fasts brought warring communities to temporary truces. Yet the scale of the tragedy left him deeply saddened, reinforcing his conviction that moral progress must accompany political freedom. In January 1948, Gandhi undertook a fast to pressure leaders and citizens to commit to communal harmony in Delhi, where violence persisted. His fast succeeded in securing written pledges from leaders of different communities to maintain peace. However, extremist elements saw his efforts as betrayal. On January 30, 1948, Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist opposed to Gandhi's conciliatory policies toward Muslims, assassinated him during a prayer meeting. His death shocked the nation, sparking grief and reflection on the ideals for which he had lived. The news of Gandhi's assassination spread rapidly, plunging India into mourning. Millions attended his funeral procession, and leaders worldwide paid tribute to his legacy. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, addressed the nation, calling Gandhi the light of our lives that had gone out. Yet Nehru reminded the people that Gandhi's message must live on. Internationally, Gandhi's death elevated his status as a universal symbol of peace, inspiring countless movements for civil rights, social justice, and nonviolent resistance across the globe. Gandhi's influence reached far beyond politics. His principles inspired leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., who adapted nonviolent civil disobedience to the American civil rights struggle. Nelson Mandela drew upon Gandhi's example during the fight against apartheid in South Africa. Activists worldwide embraced Satyagraha as a moral and strategic framework for challenging injustice. Gandhi's emphasis on truth, self-discipline, and love as transformative forces remains relevant in addressing contemporary issues, from racial inequality to environmental degradation, proving the timelessness of his vision. Philosophically, Gandhi combined elements from multiple traditions, blending Hindu spirituality with insights from Christianity, Jainism, Islam, and Buddhism. He interpreted the Bhagavad Gita as a guide for selfless action and moral duty. The Sermon on the Mount influenced his understanding of love and forgiveness. Gandhi's inclusive approach to religion promoted interfaith dialogue and mutual respect. He believed that all religions contained elements of truth and that humanity's task was to seek understanding rather than dominance, an outlook still crucial in a pluralistic world. Economically, Gandhi's vision of self-reliant villages challenged the industrial model promoted by both colonial powers and modernizers within India. His concept of trusteeship encouraged wealthy individuals to use their resources for social good rather than personal gain. While critics dismissed these ideas as impractical, they anticipated later debates about sustainable development, economic decentralization, and corporate responsibility. Gandhi's economic thoughts sought to harmonize material needs with moral values, prioritizing human dignity and ecological balance over mere accumulation of wealth or industrial output. Gandhi's ashrams, notably Sabarmati and Sevagram, functioned as laboratories for his social experiments. Residents followed strict codes of conduct, including communal living, manual labor, and adherence to truth and nonviolence. The ashrams provided training for activists and served as centers for rural upliftment programs. They embodied Gandhi's belief that personal discipline and moral integrity were essential for political leadership. These communities demonstrated that living according to ethical principles was possible, offering a practical model for the society Gandhi envisioned for independent India. Critics of Gandhi often pointed to his handling of caste issues, gender roles, and industrialization as areas where his vision fell short. Some Dalit leaders, including B.R. Ambedkar, argued that Gandhi's reforms did not go far enough in dismantling caste hierarchies. Feminists noted his adherence to certain traditional views on women, despite encouraging their public participation. Economists questioned his rejection of large-scale industry. Gandhi welcomed debate, insisting that truth emerged from dialogue, and acknowledged that his life was a continual process of learning. Gandhi's relationship with Subhas Chandra Bose illustrated the diversity within India's independence movement. While both sought freedom, their methods differed sharply. Bose favored armed struggle and sought foreign alliances, while Gandhi insisted on nonviolent resistance. Despite these differences, Gandhi respected Bose's patriotism and leadership, and Bose referred to Gandhi as the father of the nation. Their contrasting approaches highlighted the pluralism of strategies within the freedom struggle, showing that India's liberation was shaped by a spectrum of ideologies and tactics. The Khilafat movement of the early 1920s revealed Gandhi's capacity to build alliances across religious lines. By supporting Muslim leaders in their effort to protect the Ottoman Caliphate, Gandhi aimed to foster Hindu-Muslim unity. Although the movement eventually collapsed due to political developments in Turkey, it brought large numbers of Muslims into the nationalist fold. Gandhi's participation demonstrated his belief that shared struggles could transcend religious differences, even if such alliances were fragile in the face of deeper communal tensions. Internationally, Gandhi's correspondence with global figures reflected his openness to dialogue. He exchanged letters with leaders such as Leo Tolstoy, Albert Einstein, and Franklin D. Roosevelt, discussing morality, politics, and peace. These exchanges enriched Gandhi's worldview and spread his ideas beyond India. Tolstoy's writings on nonviolence deeply influenced him, while Einstein admired Gandhi's moral courage. Gandhi's ability to engage respectfully with diverse thinkers reinforced his status as a global moral leader, willing to learn from others while remaining grounded in his principles. Gandhi's legacy in independent India has been institutionalized through numerous memorials, educational programs, and policies inspired by his ideals. The Indian government promotes Khadi, commemorates his birth anniversary as a national holiday, and incorporates his teachings into school curricula. However, his economic and social visions have often been overshadowed by rapid industrialization and political pragmatism. Debates continue about how best to apply Gandhi's principles in modern contexts, from rural development to environmental sustainability, reflecting both the adaptability and challenges of his legacy. Gandhi's life has been the subject of extensive scholarship, biographies, and artistic portrayals. Richard Attenborough's 1982 film Gandhi brought his story to an international audience, winning multiple Academy Awards. While such portrayals often emphasize his saintly image, historians also examine the complexities and contradictions in his life. Gandhi himself insisted he was a seeker of truth, rather than a perfect man. This openness to self-critique invites ongoing examination of his ideas, ensuring that his life remains a source of inspiration and debate. In the realm of political theory, Gandhi's integration of ethics and politics challenged the notion that moral considerations are secondary to power. His insistence on the unity of means and ends offered an alternative to both violent revolution and passive reformism. Gandhi's methods demonstrated that disciplined, collective nonviolence could be a force as transformative as armed struggle. His example continues to inspire movements for justice, proving that ethical politics is not only possible but also powerful in achieving lasting change. Environmentalists have found resonance in Gandhi's warnings about over-industrialization and resource exploitation. His advocacy for simple living, local production, and respect for nature aligns with contemporary concerns about climate change and sustainability. Gandhi's principle that earth provides enough for every man's need, but not every man's greed, encapsulates his ecological philosophy. This perspective encourages a balance between human development and environmental stewardship, making Gandhi a pioneer of ideas now central to global discussions on sustainable living and ecological responsibility. Gandhi's concept of nonviolent resistance has influenced not only political movements but also conflict resolution practices. Mediators and peacebuilders draw upon his principles to address disputes in communities, workplaces, and international negotiations. By emphasizing empathy, patience, and mutual respect, Gandhi's methods provide tools for transforming adversarial relationships into cooperative ones. His belief that opponents should be treated as partners in truth-seeking rather than enemies has shaped modern approaches to diplomacy and restorative justice, extending his influence far beyond national liberation movements. In education, Gandhi's Nai Talim model continues to inspire alternative schooling initiatives that integrate vocational skills with moral and civic education. While mainstream systems often prioritize academic performance and competition, Gandhian education emphasizes cooperation, community service, and self-reliance. Programs in rural India and beyond have adapted these ideas to contemporary needs, teaching students to value manual work and ethical responsibility. Although not widely adopted at the national level, these experiments reflect the enduring appeal of Gandhi's holistic approach to human development. Gandhi's emphasis on self-reliance resonates in modern movements promoting local economies and fair trade. By encouraging communities to produce their own goods and reduce dependence on exploitative systems, Gandhi sought to empower individuals economically and socially. Today, cooperatives, microfinance initiatives, and community-supported agriculture echo this vision. These approaches challenge the dominance of globalized markets, aligning economic activity with social justice. Gandhi's economic philosophy thus offers practical strategies for building resilient, equitable communities in an interconnected yet unequal world. The symbolism of Gandhi's spinning wheel, or charkha, endures as a reminder of the power of simple, collective action. It represents the idea that ordinary people, through small but consistent efforts, can challenge vast systems of exploitation. In Gandhi's time, spinning khadi was both an economic necessity and a political statement. Today, the charkha appears on India's currency and in museums, serving as a cultural icon. Its continued relevance underscores Gandhi's ability to create symbols that transcend their immediate historical context. Gandhi's use of fasting as a political tool remains one of the most distinctive aspects of his activism. For Gandhi, fasting was both a personal discipline and a means of moral persuasion, intended to appeal to the conscience of adversaries and supporters alike. Critics argued it could be coercive, but Gandhi maintained it was an act of self-suffering rather than aggression. His fasts often succeeded in halting violence or prompting negotiations, illustrating his belief in the transformative potential of personal sacrifice. Gandhi's humility and accessibility contributed to his widespread appeal. He traveled in third-class train compartments, lived among the poor, and listened attentively to people's grievances. This closeness to ordinary Indians distinguished him from many political leaders. Gandhi's informal attire and plain speech signaled his rejection of elitism, reinforcing his message that leadership was a form of service. By embodying the values he espoused, Gandhi built deep trust with his followers, enabling him to mobilize mass movements based on moral conviction. The integration of prayer into Gandhi's daily routine reflected his belief in the spiritual foundation of political action. Morning and evening prayers at his ashrams included readings from multiple religious traditions, symbolizing his commitment to interfaith harmony. Gandhi saw prayer not as a ritual obligation but as a means of cultivating inner peace and moral clarity. This spiritual discipline sustained him during political struggles, reinforcing his conviction that true change must arise from a transformation of both heart and mind. Gandhi's correspondence with ordinary citizens reveals his attentiveness to individual concerns. He replied to letters from villagers, students, and workers, offering advice on personal and social matters. These exchanges demonstrated his belief that leadership involved direct engagement with the people one served. Gandhi's willingness to address small, everyday issues alongside national politics reflected his holistic view of service. For him, building a just society required attention to both the structural injustices and the personal struggles that shaped people's lives. Even in his final days, Gandhi maintained a demanding schedule, meeting with political leaders, community representatives, and journalists. He remained deeply engaged with India's challenges, from refugee resettlement to food shortages. His focus on reconciliation between Hindus and Muslims often brought him into conflict with extremists, yet he refused to abandon his principles. Gandhi's last words, "Hey Ram," uttered at the moment of his assassination, reflected his lifelong devotion to truth, compassion, and the divine, leaving a spiritual imprint on history. Mahatma Gandhi's life remains a testament to the extraordinary power of truth, nonviolence, and moral courage in shaping human destiny. Through his unwavering commitment to Satyagraha, he transformed India's independence movement into a universal struggle for justice, dignity, and human rights. Gandhi's leadership proved that enduring change could be achieved not through coercion or violence but through the strength of conscience and collective unity. His humility, simplicity, and spiritual discipline continue to inspire generations, transcending cultural, religious, and political boundaries worldwide. Though Gandhi did not live to see the India he fully envisioned, his legacy extends far beyond national independence. He offered the world an ethical framework for confronting injustice, one rooted in compassion, self-restraint, and truth. Movements for civil rights, environmental sustainability, and social equality still draw from his vision. Gandhi's message endures as both a challenge and a guide, reminding humanity that real freedom lies in mastering the self while serving others. His life embodies the timeless quest for peace with justice.